try to make me feel embarrassed. Their attempts have been in vain, but they tell me I'm the one with problems. They're the ones who are insane. So for those who want but won't admit it, you shouldn't feel like that, cause you could be 20% cooler and 10 seconds slower. Shout it out. I'm proud to be a brony. Yeah, yeah. I'm proud to be a brony.
Hello, mayors and gentlecolts, my fellow bronies. Welcome to a special edition of I'm Brony and I'm Proud. I've got the one, the only, 4EverfreeBrony. 4EverfreeBrony has over 18,000 subscribers, almost 4 million views on YouTube. G'day, Goony.
Hello, good to be here.
I know you as Goony from Fritzy Beat.
Yeah, he calls me Goony all the time. Goony is my nickname. It's what my parents called me. My dad calls me Garcon, has to do with Gaston from Beauty and the Beast. And my mom always called me Goony or Goober. So after I told that to somebody, like in some chat or another, everybody just started calling me Goony. Forrest started calling me Goony, even Lunajax. If I were to rename my channel, my stage name, I guess, it would be Goony.
Did you by any chance watch the movie The Goonies?
I did. That's where it came from, because my parents had definitely seen that movie before I did. Just because my name's Garrison, Goony just kind of fit.
That's awesome. So, how did you become a brony?
I actually had a friend who introduced me to it, and after he introduced me to it, I actually didn't like it. I kind of felt skeptical about it, mainly because it was a kids' show. I had no idea why he liked it. He told me that like the majority of the audience were guys like us. I had a hard time believing him. Then he went to South Carolina. After he left for a while, I noticed in YouTube and other places that there are ads as well as videos in the thumbnails of YouTube about ponies. And I was just like, why the heck is this here? There has to be something about this. So I checked it out and I watched several different episodes. The first episode that I watched was Hurricane Fluttershy. So they were already well into season 2. It was back in like 2012 or so. But I ended up really liking the show, had some good morals and good storytelling. That's basically how I became a brony. I started admitting it to people more after I became a musician that wrote pony-inspired songs.
Yeah, 2012 seems to be a magical year for a lot of bronies. I became one myself in 2012, so it must be something special about that year.
There definitely was.
And that leads into the next question. How did you become a creative?
Well, it started before I became a brony ever. I will admit that being a brony, just in general, didn't inspire me to become a musician, but it helped me branch out, I guess, and inspire things like that. I started taking piano lessons since I was like 9. Took them for several years, maybe about 7 to 8 years. And I stopped after a while and I just taught myself other instruments like the guitar, mandolin, banjo, maybe 8 different instruments. That's how I developed the musical part of me. One thing that I didn't do for like a long time until I was maybe 18 was write my own songs. That was 5 years ago. After I watched the show for a long time, I wrote my first brony-inspired song or pony-inspired song, and it was called Bird Song, and it was about Fluttershy. I don't know, I just really liked Fluttershy after watching the show for a while. That's one of the things that kind of got me hooked, I guess you could say. A big thanks to Alex, to one of my good friends. He told me that he was a brony as well. He was a musician. He showed me the fandom music from stuff like Forest Rain and Mando Pony. That's basically how I became a creative.
Piano since the age of 9.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Still have an acoustic guitar that's just sitting in the corner looking at me, begging to be played. I only had a few lessons, but the lesson stopped. That's when the sort of playing stopped. So, she's like staring at me with a big eye in the middle there. I had a brony meet up at my place, and it's like, oh, that's a nice guitar. Can I play it? Yeah.
Nice.
She wants to be played, so yeah, no trouble there. So totally happy for people who know how to play to just pick her up. Shout to you, Sophie, the acoustic guitar that sits in the corner. So having said that, what do you consider are your influences and inspirations? Feel free to talk about, well, what really inspired you to get into music into the first place. What better way to start than from the beginning?
Ever since I was really little, I was able to beatbox because music generally interested me. I thought the drums sounded really cool. I didn't even know what I was calling. I just called it doing the drums with my mouth. That's one of the things that kind of helped me connect with music at the beginning of my life. That's where I really started with music. And one of the things that I always wanted to learn after I learned how to play piano and guitar and all that, really wanted to learn how to play the drums. After becoming interested in the guitar, because of playing Guitar Hero 2, we got Rock Band after a while, and I wanted to learn how to play the drums. And I'd heard that you can actually learn how to play fairly similarly to a real drummer, just using the Rock Band drum kit and learning how to play from there. And I learned it pretty well. I knew kind of what needed to be done to play a real drum set. I couldn't exactly figure out like techniques and stuff like that. But with that, I was able to do that. So that's kind of my influence, helped me to keep doing music. My inspiration for writing mostly comes from the show, but I also try to relate it with my own personal life because every song that I write is supposed to have a piece of me in it. Because if it doesn't, I have almost no right to call it my own song. The show has good morals, and every song of mine has a moral in it. It either goes one way, I write it about my life and then try to relate it to ponies, or I write it about ponies and try to relate it to everyday life.
That's true. The show has been a strong influence for so many of us and vice versa. But it's great to know that you put so much of yourself into it. And listeners, if you haven't listened to 4EverfreeBrony, don't be like Maud and live with a rock or be under a rock. Nothing wrong with rocks, because, rock band. The word that comes to mind is heart. You listen to the first few seconds of a 4EverfreeBrony song or Garrison Ulrich song, you know that you're getting some soul food, so to speak. The first song I had heard was Future, What Are the Odds? It's a song that I will play once every so often at different points in your life. It seems to match that meaning of that moment somehow. Every song, it has meaning for you, and I can only say from my own experience that you find meaning for yourself. And it's largely to do, as you say, but how much of yourself did you put into your music? And the pony thing is a tie-in or vice versa. The show, My Little Pony, has been a framework for this program, but it's expanded so much more beyond that. And music is such a big part of the Brony community worldwide. And speaking of the Brony community, you probably have a fair few thoughts on the subject.
One of the things that has always stood out to me is that the Brony community is one of the most creative communities that there is out there, out of any community or any fandom. And it's also one of the most accepting too, because first of all, we know we're weird. So we might as well be sympathetic to those who are weird. We have no room to judge, but it's what we're known for. Those are my thoughts. I believe it's a healthy community, but as long as it's used in the right way. I love the work. I love the talent that this community has because it uses its talent for so many good things, but it uses its talent for some things that I think, in my eyes, that they're not okay. But it's definitely the most creative.
Absolutely. And the dark side doesn't appeal to me much either. Force is sometimes too strong for others.
Mm-hmm.
And how has the community impacted you as a person?
The fact that I've been able to share my music, openly with anyone, the feedback that I get, I've maybe received 5 negative comments this entire time. Most people just show their gratitude for what I write, and I really appreciate it. That's the connection that I've definitely been able to find with Bronies. They like my music. I love them for that. And I also love finding other Brony musicians and other animations too, for Pete's sake. So that's basically the kind of influence that it's had on my life. I could say it's definitely a part of who I am.
Fantastic. On that notion of religion, talk about the Argentina Mission.
What I did in Argentina for 2 years, I was a missionary for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. What we do as missionaries of the church, we go out to certain places. The decision of those places is usually inspired through prayer. Basically, God decides where we go. I was called specifically to Argentina in the east side of Buenos Aires, which is close to the capital. Other people could be called to France or even Australia or Russia. Basically, any place that they'll let us into, we'll go. And there are about maybe 70,000 of us in the world right now. They basically go out and they teach the gospel and they give service and they just help people come closer to Christ. That's what I did for 2 years. Probably the best decision I ever made in my entire life. I have no regrets about doing it. I know that the community, my fans missed me a lot. And I can definitely say that I was really surprised by even how many subscribers I kept getting while I was gone. It's a miracle to me. One of the things that I'm really grateful for was my folks kept my channel alive, especially my dad. He kept my channel alive with update videos because I had recorded acoustic covers of my songs and other people's songs just so we would have something to publish while I was gone. I did about 25 different videos just for that purpose. Once a month, my family would upload a new video with one of my brothers hosting it or my sister. And they would just say how I'm doing, where I'm at, what I'm doing, stuff like that. And then usually at the end or the beginning of the video, they'd play one of the songs that I recorded. It was a lot of fun in Argentina. Glad I went, but I'm also glad that my folks could keep my channel alive.
Did you do like community projects like build things or, stuff that was, civil centric with the people or mostly teaching?
It just depends on what we feel, I guess. We plan out our day. We have several visits, like with people, just to teach them. But if they need help, we are definitely willing to help them. If it be like constructing a house, or even we'll do laundry, we'll wash the dishes, we'll do anything, pretty much. As long as it's good in the eyes of God, we will definitely help you with it.
Outstanding. And relating back to the people, what was the response from the Argentinian people? And would you care to describe how that may have affected you and influenced you upon your return while you were helping others?
The Argentine culture is very different, and it definitely had an effect on me. We as Americans have this kind of sort of selfish personality in some senses. if we buy something for us, for ourselves, we have like a group of friends with us. We have this feeling of it's mine. Something that being in South America definitely helped was having a spirit of sharing, I guess. Because if you have something and you know you can share it with your friends, why the heck not? That's something that definitely affected me. There's a bit of a language barrier, I guess, if you wanted to describe certain aspects of being in Argentina as an American. If you translate something from English, it's hard to actually kind of say it in Spanish, but have the same impact. Even we have some differences, but in between like Australia and America, we have different slang terms, I imagine. In Spanish, there's a big difference in that sense. They don't even have remotely the same slang terms. That's definitely part of the Argentine culture. So I learned to speak Spanish. Now I speak it pretty well. Lots of people say that I sound like an Argentine. The other thing that's definitely really strong about the culture down there is the Catholic influence. It definitely gives the people a religious point of view. Most people down there believe in God. So that helped us. That helped us as missionaries.
I imagine so. And you're talking about language, and having that common ground really helped a lot. Myself, I believe in God as well. My ideas of God has shifted and changed over the years, with watching Stargate and I should even say My Little Pony as well. Not that I picture God as a miniature talking horse with wings and a horn. If God came from on high and that was so, be like, Bronies would absolutely go totally crazy, as well as the whole world. So, and you're talking about the translation of language, and you may be able to translate words and stuff like that. And like you said, it's a culture. And finding that common ground. And for your mission, there was already that established framework. And your mission was there to help people. And it's nothing short but of admirable as well. And I have to ask, is Argentina has been your only international destination, or have there been others?
I have been to a couple countries before I went to Argentina. Canada, like twice, just to visit. Second time was to visit a temple. And the other country that I visited with my family, actually, we went to China for 2.5 months. That was also a lot of fun. And the culture there is very, very different.
Outstanding. And I really need to get on the overseas travel bandwagon myself. But as you can imagine, Australia isn't necessarily next door to any country close. Well, Indonesia, thank goodness, is our closest neighbor. And New Zealand, of course. I'm not sure how my accent comes across in this interview, but I've been most often asked by locals if I'm Canadian. I was born in Australia, but I probably watched more than a fair share of American and Canadian television, probably that Stargate included. Got to the point, well, if everyone thinks I'm from this Canada, this Canada, I need to go see my people. And the art scene is absolutely so well supported and strong over there as well, so why not? And then my heritage is Polish, and Poland is definitely destination number one because, well, presents well sorted, but got to see the past as well. So probably you saw in China that it's kind of a living history. So much of it from all those dynasties, it's still there.
I can definitely relate with you, though. You said you get a lot of people who think you're Canadian or ask if you're Canadian. I actually got a lot of people asking if I was from Argentina, if they heard my accent. Apparently, I studied it pretty well, spoken Spanish for a long time. I guess it just kind of came across to people somehow that I was Argentine. Because in Argentina, a good chunk of the people are actually white. They don't have dark skin color. Maybe from Peru visiting, or they immigrated from Peru or something, or maybe Paraguay, or maybe some other South American country. Most Argentines are just white. If you look at me and you hear me speak in Spanish, most Spanish speakers would say that I sound very much like an Argentine.
Oh gosh, I can't believe I'm going to ask this question. Did you find yourself promoting your channel while you were on the mission?
Promoting my channel? I actually took a few little cards and stuff like for download codes. I didn't talk much about my channel, but I did talk about my music occasionally. Usually we introduce ourselves, especially to like the Mormon families there who just say, so elder, they refer to us missionaries as elders. So elder, where are you from? I'm from Washington. So what did you used to do before you went on your mission? I used to make music. Oh, really? And they could either ask to play a song. It came up eventually. At least maybe hand them a download card for like a free download for my music. In some ways, I promoted it.
No worries. As well as spreading the word of the Book of Mormon of the Church of Latter-day Saints, but also spreading the word of Brony subtly through the art of your music. That's just the beginning of the audio journey that is Forever Free Brony.
I actually do my songs in several different recordings, and I start from like in the middle of the song, 3/5 of the way into the song, and I do just about every single line, especially recording vocals. I do just about every single line separately. I try to make it flow, make it sound like it's all done in one take.
And speaking of that, talk about your creative process. We're going to go into some specific examples from the albums such as 54 Degrees, Equine Dreams and Stranger Things and so on. How does a song of yours come to be? Where does it start?
All my songs are clearly based on morals. Usually starts with some sort of message that I want to get across. I kind of developed a method that I definitely can say I use every time as of now. It starts with the idea of the song or the concept. It could be like what I want to get across, could be an idea for like a vocal melody that I wanted to, or maybe a clever lyric. Based on that, I develop the chords so that the chords can match that sort of feel. And after that, come up with a melody, and then I write the rest of the lyrics. It can start with the lyrics a little bit and then end with the lyrics as well. But it's mostly just concept, chords, melody, lyrics. That's all I do on my songwriting, pretty much. It all just ties in and it doesn't like stray from the message that it wanted to get across. For recording process, I'm an acoustic musician, obviously. I do use some MIDI effects to get some acoustic sounds like piano and maybe some drums. But I mostly just try to record everything by hand. I have several acoustic guitars. I use my electric guitars. I use an electronic drum kit to do drums. I also have a keyboard right next to me. The program that I use to record is Ableton Live 9. I absolutely love it just because it's all right in front of you. Everything is very plain. It's very simple. There's some people who can't get into it because they're a little more used to something like FL Studio or maybe Cubase, possibly Logic. I heard that those programs are very, very good. I love what I use. I like using Ableton very much. And I can definitely say that what I usually start with is the rhythm instrument, which can either be the drums or usually the acoustic guitar as well. But after all instruments are recorded, I always record the vocals last. Recently, as you've noticed, I started doing some a cappella. I usually just start by recording piano line for that to make sure that I'm on key and I don't change during the song. So I'm still on the right pitch. That's what I did for Just Another Day in Ponyville. That's pretty much my creative process. Songwriting always comes first. I try not to write any instrumentals and record them before I write the lyrics. That way I can have a firm idea of what I want a song to sound like. And a funny story about my mission, it's really small, but while I was out there, I actually had a lot of creative thoughts. I had the chance. I had some paper and I had lots of things to write with, but I had several just different song ideas. Some may not believe me, but while I was out there, I actually wrote 120 songs. I definitely have lots of music to record. So for every single song, I used that process. An idea would come to mind and I would just be like, oh, I got to write this down. Got the idea, wrote the chords, wrote the melody for the vocals, and I wrote the rest of the lyrics.
Outstanding. Outstanding. The legend that is Forever Free Brony. 120 songs. So, listeners, there's plenty of Forever Free Brony coming at you over perhaps the years to come. So watch this space. Probably is one of my curiosities. What inspired you to delve into barbershop? For those who are not familiar, barbershop usually requires 4 people to sing. Mm-hmm. And as Goony has mentioned, he has sung all 4 parts and layered them over. So what inspired you to tackle that on? Because it seems to be quite a challenge.
My family and I, we own a lot of old movies. One of the first movies that I saw that had a barbershop quartet in it was The Music Man. I don't know if anybody who's listening has seen that movie, but if you haven't, it's definitely worth seeing. If you like music, watch that movie. It will blow your mind. One of the things that inspired me to do that was watching The Music Man, because it has this group of brothers who just didn't get along with each other at all until this guy taught them how to sing as a group. And just these 4 guys going around just singing. They were happy and it was awesome. The other one that kind of made me want to do a song like that was this song called Daddy's Little Girl. It's not necessarily a barbershop quartet song, but it is similar. It has instruments in it. It's not a cappella, but it has that style. It's the same style, I guess, as Just Another Day in Ponyville. That's pretty much what inspired me to write a barbershop quartet.
And who would have thought that you had such a range of voice as well? Is that something you always knew you had, or is it something that came out through the barbershop process?
I knew I had a big range because, for example, people who know my music, they know my most well-known song, Chant of Immortality. And in that song, all the voices that are not female, all the male voices that you hear in that song are just me. I've known that for quite a long time, that I have a pretty big range. I have about 2.5 octaves, something like that. And so it kind of motivates me to want to do more stuff with my vocals. After I did that song, I was just like, wow, this sounds awesome. I want to do more. That's really my main motivation. Just I know that I can do it.
Would you say that the Ulrich household is a musical one in general as well?
Yes. The only one who doesn't really play a musical instrument is my dad. He's probably the most well-versed in musical history regarding bands from like the 80s and 60s. He knows quite a bit about their history, and he has a gigantic collection of music. My mom sings. The rest of my siblings played piano. My older brother stopped after a while. We all sing. We have our own little quartet, I guess you could say, as well. We've done a couple performances. We can do our own parts, sing harmonies, sing melody, and it's a lot of fun. So yeah, the Ulrich house is definitely a musical one.
So the hills are alive with the sound of Auric?
Yes, indeed.
Fantastic. Wow. Can I say that Christmas and Easter must be a very special time for singing Aurics?
Yes, it's a very special time. We usually go to this thing called the Celebrate the Nativity. It used to be called the Creche. We go to this thing and they have sort of background music playing in there. And lots of people sit in the chapel and listen to the musicians just play. I guess you could say we get asked to participate in some Christmas parties musically, but we signed up just about every year to go sing at the Creche. Just do some nice Christmas songs. Easter songs, not so much. Usually happens with the choir in the church.
Well, as far as I know, there aren't really any Easter carols.
No, Easter carols, no. There are some Easter-related songs, like the Easter Morn. There are definitely hymns that talk about Easter, though. I can guarantee that.
So there's a challenge out to listeners in online radio land. There's a starvation for Easter songs, so get onto it. We need them.
Yeah.
Now that we've gone through the creative process, let's delve into some specific examples, starting off with Wandering Eyes from the 54 Degrees album.
Wandering Eyes was actually a song that I wrote for my sister, kind of as a birthday present. She likes to try new things, and she can already bake cakes. She's done one for every single one of her brothers and her family members. It's always struck me that she's had a very curious personality. So that's what I really mean. That's what I really meant by the song, by the title. You're always kind of curious when your eyes are wandering. It was a very unique song because it is purely acoustic. It's probably the most acoustic song I've ever done. I actually used my acoustic electric. It's a Fender Sonoran. It has this really good sound, but it has a really rich and deep tone to it if you tune it down. And I didn't just tune it down to drop D. I actually tuned it down to drop C. Tuned the entire thing down a whole step, and then I tuned the last string, the thick string, down to a C. It's really low. That's what a lot of metal songs are played in. But for this song, I wanted to have that really rich, really full acoustic guitar sound. And to add to that, I played a mandolin in the side. In the background, you can definitely hear it. Then the last touch that I added to it, I guess, was the bass, and I added the piano, and it just sounded very, very full to me. It's one of my favorite songs that I've ever recorded, and I listen to it all the time. It's probably one of my favorite songs to sing too, just because it's in a very, very comfortable range for me. I usually don't sing that low, but it's definitely got a nice tone to it. Very earthy tone.
That's perhaps why I like it so much. I love acoustic music. I'm not discounting every other piece of music. I just have this soft spot. I don't know. It could be like Fluttershy wanting to be a tree, and it just has this romanticism. If I look at the guitar that's still staring at me, maybe it's because it's made of wood. But the fact you took a hybrid guitar and even took things a whole step further, and the mandolin is such a nice surprise in the song. I get this sort of Indian, even slightly Hindi vibe kind of thing. And for many years, that kind of sound became very popular worldwide. But the way you tuned it into the Goony way, the 4EverfreeBrony way, oh, it's beautiful.
Glad you really like it. It's a very special song to me.
Could even be a lullaby at some point.
I do fall asleep to it sometimes as well. If I'm just riding in the car, like sitting in the back seat, put my headphones on, I put the song on. I listen to a lot of my own music just to fall asleep. Some pretty soft stuff, but especially that one has a special place in my heart. Sounds so cheesy, but it's true. I just love how well it turned out.
I think it's important that artists enjoy the creations that they've created. Some people make music for the masses, but then again, the intention I like the most is that initially you're making it for yourself. And maybe that's why your music is so powerful, because, pardon the pun, it strikes the right chord within you, but then again, it strikes the right chord with so many others worldwide. Can't say the same. I would be listening to podcast episodes over and over again, because I tend to do that for the editing process. One song can carry so many different meanings every time we listen to it. And sometimes it could be just like, this song is just going to make me feel so chill that it's going to make this long drive to a convention even better. This was the first song I heard, which was, and this is off the Equine Dreams and Stranger Things album, Future, What Are the Odds? Every time I listen to it, like I said before, yeah, it seems to carry new meaning no matter what time in your life. And how did this song come to fruition?
This song was actually inspired by the episode called It's About Time from season 2. I had this goal in mind. The song actually has the musical structure of an electronic song. You kind of hear that soft beat going on at the beginning of the song. And then it has a chorus where the lyrics get catchy and they usually go up to a higher range and they get harder to sing. But that's the more fun part of the song. And then after that, have some sort of bass drop. This one doesn't necessarily have a bass drop, but it definitely has a climax in the song. It has the heavy beat, the more rockin' part of the song. That's the part that you could definitely dance to. Then after that, it just kind of quiets down, goes into a little solo, and it goes into another guitar solo, First one was a piano solo. Second one's a guitar solo. And that's usually how most electronic music is written. But I did that all with hand-played instruments, done with guitar, drums, piano, and bass, and everything. There are a couple like synthesizers in there just to give it sort of a climactic feel. A lot of the electronic music has, I think, what's called a swell. It's like a pitch that constantly goes up, kind of just goes, and then it gets to the climax. Whoa, whoa. That song kind of has that, and it would sort of surprise a lot of people that listen to electronic music or listen to hand-played music. I just kind of had that goal to make that style, that kind of a song. It was actually, it took a pretty long time to record. If it were an electronic song, you can find a good remix of it by Spectra. They did an awesome job replicating the song and how it would have sounded in an electronic form. And it sounds really, really, really good. I was super happy with it and very flattered that he wanted to make a remix of it. It was kind of like a welcome home gift as well, because it was done as soon as I got back from Argentina. Another cool thing about that song is that somebody actually made a custom track for it on Rock Band 3. So now if you want, you can actually play that song and all the parts, separate singing parts, drums, bass, keyboard, guitar, anything you want, you can actually play that song on Rock Band 3. If you download it, that is.
Amazing. Oh my God, is it catchy? I've forgotten how many times I've listened to it. For me, it's like that start of the week kind of song, or just a reminder of how much I've come in my own life. And like you're saying, it's got this mixture of instruments, but work harmoniously together. I almost know all the words by now, but that probably can be said by a lot of people. So I hope you don't mind me singing along to your song as often as I have.
No, it's all good. It's very flattering. I'm glad you like this song. It's talking about the same message that episode conveyed. Don't worry so much. It's basically just saying don't worry so much when you don't have to. Have more confidence and trust in the future. That's really what the message is all about. In the second verse, it says, all my worries have led me to emptiness, but at least I've been around. At least it's over now.
That line, every time I hear it, it's a reminder of my life as a freelancer. And I guess there was this hopelessness. But deep down, I always believe things were going to turn out okay. Trust in the future.
Right.
You never know when it's going to come. And we're going to move into another time-related song, Bound with Time from Hoping. Talk about that.
It has a slightly different message. It's not saying don't worry so much. I've written songs, as you've noticed, or as everybody has noticed. I've written a lot of songs about Twilight being immortal or being a princess or outliving her friends in general or being overwhelmed with this responsibility. This song is just talking about, now this is not canon and I know it. If anybody has any beef about that, I've already cleared it up with Chant of Immortality. There's a whole discussion going on there with like over 1,000 comments. So if you want to talk about it, go there. Twilight is obviously not immortal, but it's the idea that if she was, you could take it two ways. You could take it either as a blessing or a curse. For one thing, you never get to experience death. On the other hand, you outlive everybody. If you keep making friends, they're just going to go away. They're just going to pass. They're just going to pass away. It's kind of a sad feeling, a sad thought, because if I'm going to be here, I want at least somebody to talk to who will always be there. And if they can't be there, it's kind of depressing. That's pretty much what that song talks about. The recording process was a little bit unique for me because I'm not used to recording many electronic songs. The only thing that I was more comfortable recording in that were the drums and the electric guitar, plus the vocals. I don't do electronic songs very much. But to get that feeling of time living on through generations far into the future, I wanted sort of a futuristic kind of sound. That's pretty much why it sounds how it sounds. The message that it contains is not exactly like a hopeless one, but it's saying that there's always a reason for our existence. And everybody has their own time, but if your time is forever, you obviously have a reason to be there.
It's important to stop and smell the roses.
I like that song too. That was actually inspired by a talk that I heard from one of the prophets of our church. If I'm not mistaken, his name was Gordon B. Hinckley, and he was talking to missionaries when he gave this talk. In the life of a missionary, it can get very hard. You are out on your own, basically, and you just have your companion to be there. Of course, you have the spirit, your beliefs, you have faith, but sometimes you can lose sight of that. Sometimes you lose sight of the fact that you're there to help people. Some missionaries lose focus of their true goal, and they start worrying more about themselves and if they're going to be okay. And so sometimes when it's hard, you just have to take a small break and admire the beauty of the earth. One of the lines that he said was, "Stop and smell the roses." It touched me, and I wanted to sort of relate it to the journey that Twilight and her friends are now assigned to by destiny. It's now their job to go out and fix friendship problems. I imagine that it would definitely get hard along the way, and they encounter another problem, and it gets hard just about every single time. So sometimes you just have to stop and take a breather. You have to stop and smell the roses. Recording process, it was a very comfortable song for me. Very acoustic, very simple, and a good range for my vocals.
Absolutely. It reminded me about the Cutie Mark Chronicles episode where the friendship of the main six was predestined so early on. It's always that case where, is destiny predetermined or we make our own? I'm the believer that destiny is predetermined, but we can shape it along the way, or we're led to believe that for one way or another. Although if you know that your life has been predetermined along the way, every single step, just, wouldn't be that much fun. But having said that, have that flexibility to, smell the roses along the way, no matter how much is predetermined. And talk about Soon from the Reflections album.
It was a very old album. My second album that I ever released. It was before I became a Brony. My first mainly focused Brony album was called Small Horses and Other Stuff, but Reflections had this song that was called Soon. It has absolutely nothing to do with Bronies, actually. It's just about taking a trip, missing your loved ones, I guess. I wrote it while I was heading to a camping trip. Kind of catchy. Really liked it. I know my dad really likes it. My family, they like it a lot. Not my favorite song. Definitely pretty good one. And the recording process didn't take very long for that one because it wasn't very well done. It was well done for its time. The drums, for that one, I used my keyboard. I plugged the audio from the keyboard into there and I recorded the drums directly from the keyboard instead of using samples from Ableton, which are more realistic sounding drums. And I just recorded the guitar in a straight rhythm, never really changes the chord patterns. And then I recorded the ukulele. I had Jackson help me with the ukulele on that one. My brother is also a fine musician. I recorded the bass. That was pretty much it. It was a fun song to do. Definitely say I would revise it when I get the chance to.
Nice to know that some songs may not be favorites of ours, but it's always a big compliment when they become family favorites for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely, it means something to them. It means a lot to me. You know what I mean? My first album was called 45 Degrees. I have an album that came out a couple of years later called 54 Degrees, which is basically like a revision of that album. Small Horses and Other Stuff was my third album that I ever released. It has 17 tracks on it, the final track being Chant of Immortality. So far, it's got fairly good amount of attention and reception. I was really pleased with how it turned out. I would definitely say that I would redo like some of the recording processes, the recordings of those songs specifically. It was definitely a good first album as a Brony artist. Like there are some hints in Reflections. Three's a Team is on Reflections. So is Honesty and Laughter and a couple other ones, I think. Small Horses and Other Stuff. Almost every song on there was pretty much written for the Brony community.
Very much like from that album is Under the Sun. What does that song mean to you?
I wrote that song in spring of 2014. It was actually done for this thing called Taxi. It was for some sort of challenge. Taxi is a website where you can submit your music and see if they'll use it for like a commercial or something, get it to some sort of business, some sort of company so that you can get some exposure. They had a contest to write a song that was radio worthy, I guess. I didn't quite make it. I think I was a little bit late, but I was trying to make the song, not just wrote it, but I recorded the entire thing. And that required the writing process as well in 36 hours straight. It was total time, obviously, but it was also just nonstop. I went to sleep, obviously, but the first thing I did in the morning was I recorded the song. I liked how it turned out. It was just a quick topic, but kind of has some meaning behind the lyrics as well. It's not too relatable for the show, so even the artwork was mildly related. It's about developing a sort of appreciation for the sun itself or good weather outside. Here in Washington, it's quite rainy. And so we appreciate the days that are really warm because like throughout 9 months, I'd say, of the year, it just constantly rains. Whenever we get a sunny day, we're like, hooray! It gets hot, just not for very long. Yeah, that's why I wrote the song. And I guess you could relate it to MLP by just saying it's developing an appreciation for the work that Celestia does, I guess. And the recording process was lots of fun. Pretty upbeat song with a simple pattern. It was very, I guess you could say, exhilarating because it was just upbeat. It's a fun song and it's really not hard to play at all. I could teach that song to just about anybody. It's a great song. I really like it. I would definitely redo the drums if I could, but that's about it.
It sure is. And regardless of the weather in Washington, none of that weather has dampened your spirits, which is really good.
Yeah, we try to keep in good spirits here. We have this sort of sarcastic attitude. There's more sarcasm here than in a lot of other places. One of the reasons that people generally leave here is because of lack of vitamin D, kind of get depressed. People who have lived here for a long time, we are generally pretty happy people, not going to lie. In my family, we're generally pretty happy. And umbrellas don't exist here. if you use an umbrella here, that's like blasphemous. We use a raincoat with a hood. That's the maximum. Kind of inspired by that feeling of truly being able to appreciate the sun.
I guess worlds apart. Australia, that's something we get a lot of. We're a bit spoiled here for choice. A real easy way to segue from that, but let's talk about collaboration. Now, you've collaborated with Luna Jax, Giggly Maria, Relative Pitch, Feather, and so many other names, and including Fritzy Beat, which you can check out on another episode of I'm Brony and I'm Proud. Talk about working with those particular artists, as well as can't imagine what kind of undertaking it was, but the Pink Side of the Moon album as well.
I'll go with Luna Jax first. Luna Jax is actually also a Mormon. He kind of found me after he heard that I was going to leave on a mission. It was just like, you know what? We should do a song together. I was like, yeah, let's do one. This song was written like a long time ago. The song is called Back to You. We recently just released it with a revised version, basically a revamped version. It hit #1 in the top 10 of January of 2017. So I guess everybody liked it. But in the original version, it's just him singing. He wrote the entire song. I did the instrumental. It's a really fun song, kind of bouncy. It's pretty cool. And it's got a good message just about the reunion of Celestia and Luna. And it's just saying, you know, nothing will ever tear us apart again. It's probably not my favorite collaboration, but it was definitely one where we worked together just like really, really well. We have very similar sounds, very similar styles at least. His voice is way different than mine. He's got way better vocal control than I do. In the second version, I actually sang the second verse and the second chorus instead of him just singing the entire song. Yeah, that was basically my experience with him. Oh, and the little recording that you hear in the beginning of Back to You, that's actually the original recording that he sent me. He recorded on his cell phone, pretty much. I decided to include it just because it kind of fit like a radio, but it was a cell phone.
And I can't help but think that Back to You is almost a metaphor for you coming back from Argentina in a way. Like we were talking about, songs can carry new meanings as life goes on. Sounds like you and Luna developed pretty solid friendship as well.
Definitely. We performed at Brony Community together, actually.
Fantastic. Talk about working with Giggly Maria. What a song, Flutter.
Actually, probably the most poppy song I've published to this day. Back then, I never imagined myself doing such poppy sounding music. In that song, I just wrote the lyrics. It's just cheesy love song about Fluttershy. I hardly ever write love songs. Funny thing about that song is when I sent it to her, she kept making up sort of puns and rhymes. You know, the part where it goes like, you make my heart flutter. She just goes like, where is the butter? Where are you, mother? Just other stuff that rhymes with flutter. Oh my gosh, it was pretty funny. All she did was actually in the second verse, she's singing the harmony. She's harmonizing to the lead vocals. And she has a little part where she goes, you make my heart flutter. And then it echoes one ear, then the other ear, then the other ear. And that's about it. That's pretty much all she did. Oh, and she did sing part of the chorus as well. But that was pretty much it. Normal collaboration with her usually involves her singing most of the song, like she did in Hoping, probably one of my favorites that I've ever collaborated with her on. She did the entire song by herself, and she has a very great tone that goes along with the cello. One thing that she usually does, she'll allow it if it's necessary, but she prefers not to use any voice correction, at least not auto-tune. I do sometimes do little corrections here and there just to make it sound, I guess, say radio worthy, up to my standards. But yeah, that's something that she usually tries to stay away from, is using voice correction, because she wants to be a really good vocalist. And she is, but she wants to get even better.
And thank you very much for some of the behind the scenes of the song as well. She sounds like a pleasure to work with.
Especially if you can get her into a Skype call. She'll make you crack up.
And another collaboration, Thought I'd Let You Know with Relative Pitch.
It's probably one of the most meaningful songs that I've written. The story behind this song actually has to do with a piece of my life as well. For a long time, I was not good at answering or replying to emails, texts, or just getting back to people, basically. I would just kind of let them hang there until I felt like it. One day, my dad talks to me and he's just like, you know what? I think you should probably reply a little more often, because you never know who could just be, you know, waiting or thinking that you're ignoring them. I realized that this would probably have a really harsh impact on the other people. The person who's sending me these messages, no matter who it is, whether it be my friends or my siblings or anything like that, probably had a hard impact on them. I realized I needed to fix it up, at least a little bit. I wrote this song about this topic. It asked one question, and that question is, what if Celestia never wrote back to Twilight? In the first seasons of the show, Twilight always write Princess Celestia, and she would write back. She would write back with her acknowledgments, basically, her tips and tricks, whatever knowledge that she wanted to give. I realized it's a depressing topic, but it gives off a good message saying that it's definitely important to reply, to at least tell them that you acknowledge their message. And it's showing appreciation for the time that they took to write to you. That's the message of the song, really. I get lots of uplifting comments on it. I'm truly grateful for it. The collaboration. I met Relative Pitch at a convention at Everfree Northwest. He's one of the most talented violinists that I've ever met. I was just playing the piano in the music room at Everfree Northwest. He was just sitting there. He started playing along with me. played stuff like Claire de Lune, Lullaby for a Princess. I would just play and sing, and he just plays violin. Great time. And then he found me on YouTube after a while. And he was, hey, if you ever need any violin for your tracks, hit me up. I could totally do it. And he has a good mic for recording. He has all the equipment that he needs. And he sounds amazing when he just plays on your track. It's absolutely incredible. He's played for so many of my songs. It's unbelievable. He is worth having on your track if you can get him onto it. All that I do to actually show him his part is I take a synthesized violin from my keyboard and I send the part to him in a file, Skype usually, or something, and he'll just play it right back. Sounds like he can play by ear, which is a very rare gift, even for most musicians. The first one that we ever did was Emerald Eyes, and in the same day, he sent me his recording. This one probably took a little bit longer, but it was really, really well done, and he is an excellent violinist. I would recommend him to anyone.
And a shout out to you, Relative Pitch. In finishing off this discussion about collaboration, talk about Pink Side of the Moon. Correct me if I'm wrong, that sounds like a Pink Floyd reference, as well as talking about the assortment of artists. And this is a project that you more or less completed before you left for the Argentina mission.
That's correct. It was one of the biggest projects that I've ever done. And it was probably one of the most successful things that I've ever done, too. I had no idea how much time it was going to take to do this. I knew that I wanted like at least one other person to collaborate with me on each one of these songs. And it turns out that 3 of those songs were actually done without a single part of me recording. I did do one part in Zatzlal's song called Galactic Getaway. But yeah, 3 of the songs were actually written by other people. I just said, hey, let's get together and let's make an album. It involved Sliffstorm, Fritzy Beat. That was our first ever collaboration, by the way. He sort of collaborated with me on a song that I didn't actually record, but I wrote sort of. So it involved Fritzy Beat, it involved Zatzlal, it involved Jof the Loaf. It was going to involve Replacer, but it never ended up involving Replacer. He didn't have time for it. It involved Chi-Chi, Lily Cloud, and just a ton of other people. Giggly Maria actually did a part for it as well, singing part for Still on the Moon. And Relative Pitch had his part in there as well. It was just a gigantic, huge project. There were 2 songs in there that I did by myself, and those are 1000 Miles and Reality. This album was just going to have a lot of people, and I wanted to tell this story. It was a story that I wrote myself and that nobody had ever come up with. It starts off with Without Me, where Pinky just kind of leaves because she thinks that her friends don't need her anymore. They had a party without her. It talks about the fact that they'll be better off without her. Yeah, that's the story that it really tells. It's her emotional journey. She goes to the moon thinking that nobody needs her, and then she kind of feels bad about it. She realized that not only does she need them, but they need her. It was an amazing project that I never thought people would be so willing to help me out with. So we posted the entire thing in one video because they all kind of mesh together into one song, and they tell that story, and it makes for one like 40-minute song pretty much. I am very, very proud how well it turned out.
One of the reasons I love it so much, because it reminds me so much of a Pink Floyd concept album.
Yeah, that was the idea. That's kind of what I had in mind. It's a concept album itself. It's just supposed to tell a story. Songs go together. Gave me that inspiration.
Outstanding. And a shout out to all those involved with the Pink Side of the Moon album. It's unlike anything on earth. It's a masterpiece.
Thank you. I'm glad you really like it. Very happy with it.
Speaking of things ponified, honorable mentions, She's So Shy, and one of my favorite ponified songs is Wings of the Rainbow, Sarah McLachlan's song featuring Feather and Relative Pitch. And of course, Pharrell Williams' song Ponified Pony, featuring Sax Brony.
I really like that one too.
And it's great that Pharrell Williams made that song happy because it resonated so much with the world, the right place at the right time. Anytime's a good time to play Pony, in my opinion.
I'm glad you think so. It's a good one. Sax Brony did a great job. That version, it's more of a replication of Walk Off the Earth's cover that they did with Parachute of Happy. If you listen to that one, it sounds pretty similar. Where my parody was just a more acoustic feel. Nobody knows who Walk Off the Earth is. You should definitely go look them up. They are an amazing band.
And to bring us home, what is the future for 4EverfreeBrony?
I'm going to probably be here for quite a while. I'll probably keep doing what I'm doing. I usually post 2 songs a month, and I've kept it at that rate for a good chunk of time. I actually plan to do soundtracks for like movies and video games. You see the name of Garrison Ulrich under a soundtrack of a movie or a video game or something, you knew that guy. You knew who that guy was. Bring in all the punny goodness, you know. What are the odds that you would know somebody before they actually became famous in the future?
That was beautifully said, reminding me of my favorite song as well. All my heartstrings. Thank you very much, 4EverfreeBrony, Goony, Garrison Ulrich. Lots of love to you, to your family, to the fandom that supports you, that supports all of us. It's been an honor, privilege. and of course a pleasure having you on the program. So thank you very much.
It's been really good and really fun on this program. Glad that you asked me. This has been really fun. I love sharing my experiences with other people. So thank you.
You're very welcome. Catch you later.
See you later.
Bye. This has been I'm Brony and I'm Proud. Lucky Knight speaking. Thanks for listening. Remember to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at IBAIPshow. Proud to be a Brony. Intro and outro by Black Griffin. My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic.
My little pony. I used to wonder what friendship could be. My little